We'll continue with the Gemara. We're holding here Mesechta Megillah Daf Chaf Ches Amud Beis 28b. If you have an art scroll, it's 28b3. We just finished discussing the halachas of using a shul or a place to make a eulogy. Now we are going to discuss ideas of the different praises, how to praise and respect you have to give to a Talmid Chacham, to a Torah scholar. And we're going to do it from several different angles. We had Rabbi Reish Lakish and Rav Nachman. Reish Lakish, who eulogized a Torah scholar who, according to Rashi, used to teach Mishnah to 24 rows of students, according to other Mefarshim, who sat in the 24th row before Reish Lakish, and eulogized him, how great of a person he was. We had Rav Nachman, who refused to eulogize a Torah scholar who was a tremendous Torah scholar, but he didn't spend time to be mishamish, to serve Talmidei Chachamim, serve students, or to teach to others. Now in Hassam, we're going to quote verbatim a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, Parak Aleph, Halacha, Mishnah Gimel says, Hu haya omer. He would say, which is Avtayan, Negad Shema Avad Shema. Somebody who uses his name to advance destroys his name, meaning uses my reputation, then he destroys it. Lamoisif Yasif. You don't increase in learning of Torah, you don't just stay stagnant. You lose your knowledge that you learn. If one does not learn Torah, he is deserving of death. And if someone uses the crown of Torah for his own personal use, honor me, give me this or that because I'm a Torah scholar, sell me your house because I'm a Torah scholar, Chalaf, he will perish. He will eventually lose what he said, lose what he has. That's a Gemara, that's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. Here in our Gemara, we're going to have the same thing, just in a little bit of a different explanation. We learned in a Mishnah, Umishtamesh Bisaga Chalaf. One who utilizes the crown of Torah learning for his own benefit and their own use, they will perish. They will pass away from the world. Tani Reish Lakish, the same Reish Lakish who before eulogized the Torah scholar who only learned Mishnah. Reish Lakish eulogized, Reish Lakish explained this to mean, who is one who is deserving of perishing, of dying, if you use a Torah scholar for your own personal needs. Take a Talmid Chacham and you use him to clean your gutters for you, you use him to do something for you. That is a person who's deserving of passing away, of perishing. In the Mishnah of Pirkei Avos, the Shtamish of Saga Chalaf means someone who makes personal use of the crown of Torah, uses Torah to advance his own needs. I'm a Rav, and therefore I'm passing. You're not allowed to eat anybody else's hashgacha, not for any halachic reason, but because you have to listen to my great Torah scholarship or something like that. There's three different pirushim, three explanations, understandings. What does it mean, these words? Someone who uses Torah's crown, chalaf, shall perish. One explanation, one in Pirkei Avos, is that if you're using Torah to benefit from, you shouldn't learn Torah in order to become an important person, a prestigious person. You shouldn't learn Torah in order people should support you, give you money. If you're learning Torah for the sake of heaven, Shem Shemayim, and then people want to come and support you, or they say, become a teacher, become a Lamalamid, become a Dayan, a judge, or a Rav, and then in order to continue learning, you need to be supported, that is different. But even then, Torah scholars always lived in want. They never lived in lives of luxury. It's impossible to learn if you're hungry, if your children don't have what to wear, what to eat. As the Alter Rebbe says in Hilchos Talmud Torah. So that is the Pirush in Pirkei Avos. The Shtamish b'saga chalav. One who makes personal use of the crown of Torah shall perish. And it's very fitting with the entire flow of that Mishnah over there, that whoever has benefit from the words of Torah, he loses his portion of life in the world. The second Pirush brought down in the Ramah, and even in Halacha it's brought down, and the different very awesome things are said about this, is that Tishtamish v'taga, one who uses a crown. What is a crown? The crown is the letters of Hashem's name, the crowns. Shemus of Hashem. Someone uses a Shemus of Hashem. You mean someone who knows Kabbalah, practical Kabbalah. Sure. Someone who uses practical Kabbalah for their own needs, right? It's chalaf, they should perish. It's a warning not to use the names of Hashem to accomplish certain things. Called Kabbalah Maisis. And the third thing is that we're learning over here in our Gemara. Rish Lakish says, "L'shtamish b'saga chalaf." One who uses a Torah scholar for a menial task, for a non-Torah related task, that person is deserving of misa, of passing away. Chalaf. We're going to qualify this and quantify this, exactly what type of use you are allowed to use from a Talmid Chacham or Torah. A teacher who is teaching a student, so if you're the main teacher, it's a schus, it's a merit for the student to learn, to be mishamish, to serve the teacher. And if a teacher, a Torah teacher, holds back his student from doing him a service, he's holding back goodness from him because he's not letting him serve a Torah scholar. Says Baal Shem Tov himself traveled to Chaim traveled to him, and when he was old and sick, and spent several days by him just in order to help him, to serve him, because he wanted to have the schus of Shemesh Talmidei Chachamim serving a Torah scholar. Similarly, the Baal Shem Tov, his students were the greatest tzaddikim, the greatest goinim, and but being he was their main teacher, they were allowed to serve him, and so on and so forth. There was the Rebbe who poured kosher bracha by the Rebbe, Rabbi Mentlik, Rosh Hashiva of Yeshiva. He was the one who poured kosher bracha for the Rebbe, because if it's your main Rebbe, they are allowed to do a service for you, and it's a schus for them. But someone who's not your Rebbe, not your Talmid, not your student, and they're Talmid Chacham, a Torah scholar, you should not use them. Says the Gemara, an anecdote about this. The Amar Ula says Ula. Lishtamish inun. Here's a hierarchy. If you have several Torah scholars, several Talmidei Chachamim, some are wiser, some are less wise. Here's a one, and you need someone to do a task for you. Which one should you ask? Lishtamish inish b'man detani arba'a. One should rather be served by somebody who studied 4 orders of Mishnah, not to be served by somebody who teaches 4 orders of Mishnah. So Mishnah, there's here on the screen, see that there's 6 different orders called the Zerayim. 6 different parts of the Mishnah: Zerayim, Moed, Nashim, Nizikin, Kachim, Taris. And there's 4 main ones that we're supposed to know, which is the ones that are Negeya, the ones that are important for those living outside of Eretz Yisrael. Zerayim is mainly all about planting the different Truma, Meiser, Peyag, the Gdmai, Kilayim, Shemitah. All these things apply only in Eretz Yisrael. There's no Gemara on Zerayim except for Brachas. Because Brachas is not really part of Zerayim, they just put it at the beginning of the Mishnah. Moed is so that Zerayim is not so applicable nowadays. Moed is applicable, all the Yom Tovim. Nashim is very applicable. Halachas of ksuba, halachas of kiddushin, nisuin, gittin, marriage, divorce. Everything is very nida. It's all nida and taras at the end. Nizikin, damages. Of course, that's very applicable. Kachim is a karbanis in the Beis HaMikdash, which although it's not as applicable nowadays, because it's specifically the karbanis in the Beis HaMikdash, but it's very important in general to learn kachim, the laws, halachas of kachim. The says whoever learns Torah, it's like they're bringing a karban. And it says Talmidei Chacham, the sages are constantly serving and bringing karbanos to Hashem. So this is something which is applicable even nowadays. As a matter of fact, the Chaim, in his yeshivas, he instituted that they should learn kachim, these halachas. They're very nuanced, very complicated. And even during the times of the Amirayim, when there was no Beis HaMikdash, even then, they were very knowledgeable inside out of all the halachas of kachim. And many brisker yeshivas to learn specifically, they say there is kachim. And taras, again, you have no mishnayos on, you have no Gemara on taras, except for Mesechta Nida, which is really part of Nashim, but they put it as part of Nida. And we're going to actually have a connection to Mesechta Nida right now. So the four orders of the Mishnah, which are important to learn, three apply nowadays, and kachim, which although it doesn't apply nowadays in the literal sense, but it does apply in a more greater sense of learning kachim.
Sounds like you're saying touching.
Touching.
The laws of touching.
Yeah, it's called the laws of kachim.
Well, touching is Megillah.
That's Negoyim. That's also in Taras. Yeah. Kachim is the karbanos in the Beis HaMikdash. So he says, rather, you should, if you need a Torah scholar to do a service for you, you should rather utilize somebody. You should be served by someone who knows these four, but didn't teach them, as opposed to somebody who teaches them, which is even someone who teaches. We learned earlier, it's according to the Ran, right, in our explanation of their shliach, how we eulogize a student who knew Mishnah but taught Mishnah, according to Rashi in the Ran. So rather be served by someone who knows only these four, even though he's a Torah scholar, but not someone who knows it and teaches it to others. According to the Rashba and other Rishonim, which like Rebbe pointed out yesterday, that it's we're talking about not someone, Shlakish was eulogizing not someone who taught, but rather eulogizing a student who sat in the last row, in the 24th row, in front of the Chachamim. So he explains over here, it means that Tane and Tane means the Mishnah and the Gemara. Rather be served by someone who knows the Mishnah of these four orders of the Mishnah, and not someone who knows the Gemara as well. But someone who knows the Gemara knows the reasonings and the questions and the answers, and he's a greater Talmid Chacham, a greater Torah scholar than the one who knows just the Mishnah. The Halacha says somebody should always honor a Torah scholar, someone who's greater than them, for sure, obviously. Someone who knows halachas you should not use. If it's someone whose parnasa is doing this, we see many Tamnoim and Amarayim had jobs. They were a blacksmith. Are you allowed to go to the blacksmith shop and ask him to do it for you? You know, Menachem Zemba, one of the Rabbanim in Warsaw before the war, was actually killed Erev Pesach during the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. In the middle of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, he was shot in his back by a German, and he was escaping from one burning house to another burning house. There was a huge levaya, huge funeral in the middle of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. Thousands of people came. Everyone came out of their bunkers, out of their hiding places to make a levaya for him. He was Menachem Zemba. Of course, the Rebbe, he came to the Rebbe's wedding. He's a personal gift that he gave to the Rebbe. He really wanted the Rebbe to come learn by him. He says, I'll make him into the Gadol Hadar. So Rebbe Menachem, when the Rebbe told him, I have to go back to my father-in-law, he started crying. And so Rebbe Menachem Zemba, he had a store. He was a shopkeeper. He had a store, a hardware store in Warsaw. He refused to take any money for being a Rav. And someone said they went into his store once. Rebbe Menachem Zemba was sitting behind the counter reading a sefer, and piled up all along the wall are boxes of different types of screws and different types of nails and different things. And he didn't notice anyone walking into the store, and someone could have walked out with tons of objects and nobody would have realized. And in the middle of learning, and somebody says, interrupted him, says, "Can I please have a certain type of screw?" He says, "Yeah." He jumped up, he knew exactly where that screw was, which box. He grabbed it down, gave it to him, and says, "Put the money over there," and it went right back into the sefer. Chafetz Chaim's wife had a store. Chafetz Chaim learned, and his wife had a store. And many people will come to her store to buy because they wanted to support the Chafetz Chaim. Chafetz Chaim told his wife that after they earned enough money to what they needed to live, she should close the store down for the day, not to take business away from any other shopkeepers. So could you use a Talmid Chacham, a Torah scholar, who was a blacksmith for anything else? And
so was the Rebbe, someone came into the Rebbe's house. Yeah, the mother, that was him. And he was under the sink fixing the pipes.
The Rebbe was under the sink fixing the pipes.
Yes, and they asked him, "Why do you have a phone?" He said, "What? I should give away the schus to fix my mother's pipes to a plumber."
And especially if it's somebody who one time taught you something, right? So that's especially halacha. We'll see soon the greatness of learning halacha. Okay, it's a discussion among all the poskim. So definitely one thing you cannot do is that person should do a lowly type of work, meaning carrying your towel for you to the bathhouse, carrying your shampoo for you, being your attendant. That definitely they should not do. Also, if the person is doing it for parnasa, it could be they want to do it, and therefore you're honoring them by getting them to do it. If someone is your own student, if you're a teacher, then they're allowed to serve you in any type of task that they want. We shouldn't ask them to do a menial task. But something non-menial you could do. But to volunteer, they're allowed. It says Yeshua ben Nun, he would come early to the Beis Medrash and he would set up all the benches. He would set up the Beis Medrash for Moshe Rabbeinu to teach, and he would sweep and he would mop and he would clean for everyone to get ready in order to learn. If a student wants to help his teacher in the mikvah, in the bathhouse, that he is allowed to do. But to go ahead and ask him, you're not allowed to do. Someone else's student, you shouldn't ask them to do even a non-menial task. Let's continue learning. And we're going to give an anecdote of Rish Lakish, famous Rish Lakish, who before eulogized a Torah scholar, Shmuel. Sorry, I didn't notice you till now. Notice Shmuel. Rish Lakish have a kama arba, have a azib urcha. One time Rish Lakish was traveling on the way, and there was a large puddle, a deep puddle of water along the way that he had to get through. Asahu Gavra, so a certain person came. Now, this person, for context, was not dressed as a Torah scholar, and he didn't present himself as a Torah scholar. Arkavei Kaspe, so he told Rish Lakish, Rabbi, you don't have to get yourself wet and dirty and walking through this big puddle. Let me give you a ride on my shoulders. He picked up Rish Lakish, put him on his shoulders, and he passed over the water, passed through the puddle, and Rish Lakish did not have to get wet. The Rish Lakish did not know who this person was. Amar Le, he told him, Karisa, did you learn Torah? Are you a Torah scholar? Have you learned Chumash? Mikra, Amar. So he answered, Tanis, yes, I have learned. Tanisa says, have you learned Mishnayos? And the person answers, Tanina, Arba Siddur Mishnah. I have taught 4 orders of the I have learned, and some say I have taught 4 orders of the Mishnah. These 4 orders, which we mentioned, right? Mayed, Nashim, Nizik, and Kachim. I have learned these 4, which are the most important ones, for today. Amar lei, Rish Lakish told him back, how could you carry me on your shoulders? Pasaltalach, arba turi. You have carved out for 4 mountains, which is a formidable task. So you've learned so much. You learned these 4 orders of the Mishnah. And you still are going to carry the son of Lakish, carrying me on your shoulders? I don't want to use you. I don't want to make use of you anymore. You should stop serving me. Put me down in the puddle. Stop carrying me now, because you're a Torah scholar. Shadi, bar Lakish Maya. Throw me off and throw me into the water. I can't use somebody who's a Torah scholar. Amar lei, so the person answered back, I still want to carry you. Nichele dashminan. Limar. For me, it's not a embarrassment. I'm not putting myself down. I'm not debasing myself by carrying you on my shoulders, going through the water. It's not a burden for me. Don't worry about it. It's good for me. So Rish Lakish answered back, if so, if you still want to serve me, then at least you have to become my Talmud, my student, because your own student, you're allowed to receive service from. He didn't ask him to put him on his shoulders. He offered it. But if you become a Talmud, a student of Rish Lakish, so then you're allowed to mishamish him. And therefore, let me teach you something. Gemara mini hamilsa. So let me teach you this halacha. One matter. And then I'll be allowed to let you serve me.
I'm sorry to go outside because I'm too cold. I want to get my
Sure. Yeah.
I didn't think I needed it, but I see I need it.
It's over here. Yeah. Sifsech Chaim writes, if you remember the words, if one who uses a crown of Torah and Rish Lakish explained, uses a Torah scholar, Chalaf deserves to perish. The word Taga stands for the word Talmid Gaver Achrina, Gaver Acher, the student of someone else. You're not allowed to use a Torah scholar who's a student of somebody else. But if the person is your own student and they want to do you a service, that you are allowed to do. It's not considered to be using a Torah scholar for your own usage. It says, let me teach you one halacha. And it shows a very interesting halacha. The Amar Reb Zera, it's halacha which Reb Zera said, and this is the basis of Hilchos Nida Taharas HaMishpacha as we use it today, as we know it today. The Jewish woman imposed upon themselves, were strict upon themselves. A woman has even one drop of blood, they wait 7 clean days, 7 days without any blood flow before immersing themselves and purifying themselves in the mikvah. Mina Torah, from the Torah, you have what's called the Yimei Nida, Yimei Ziva. There's 7 days of Yimei Nida. 7 days a month where a woman is considered to be the possibility to be a Nida. And 11 days, Achadas Yom, which were called Yimei Ziva, she could become a Zava. And during Yimei Nida, if she sees any blood, even one drop of blood, during Yimei Nida, she has to wait 7 days without any blood, without any clean days, 7 Shiva Nikim, before going to mikvah. And if she sees blood during the Yimei Ziva, so if she sees 1 day or 2 days blood, so then she needs to wait 1 or 2 days without blood, without seeing anything. And if it's 3 consecutive days, then she has to. The Benois Yisrael, the Jewish woman, if it's 3 consecutive days, if the Jewish woman took upon themselves a stringency that even if they see 1 drop of blood on 1 day, not knowing even if it was during Yemei Ziva, where it would only make them impure for 1 day, still they would wait for 7 days of not seeing any blood before going to the mikvah. And the reason is because the reason why the Jewish woman took upon themselves this stringency of always waiting 7 days after any drop of blood, because there are times when it's one drop of blood would make somebody wait 7 new days. For example, if they're during the Shiva Nikim, 7 clean days, and it's not one drop of blood, they have to recount all the Shiva Nikim once again. Also, it's possible that a woman saw blood 3 days in a row and didn't realize on day number 2, let's say, only realized day number 1 and 3, or didn't realize on day number 3. Or sometimes it could have seen on day 1 and not realize that they started till the next day. So in order to take away any problems, any possibilities of any confusion, they took upon themselves the stringency of being a Zava Gedola, of always waiting 7 clean days after seeing even one drop of blood. And till today, right, this is what we do whenever Hilchas, right, the Rishonim all discuss how strong this stringency is, if it has a level of a deraisa or if it's a minhag. But it wasn't the sages who started it. There was a woman themselves who came up with this halacha. And it was accepted until halacha today, and this is halacha that everybody follows. Why did Rish Lakish choose, of all the halachas in the world, to teach? There's one halacha. There's this person who's doing him a service, carrying him on his shoulders, and he wants to do him a service. Why specifically choose this one halacha to teach? There's so many other halachas you could teach. Why that this halacha of Rebbe Zera? Royati bedam kechardel. Some Pfeffer explains. If you look at the next Gemara, I'll give you the answer. We're going to go to the next Gemara as well. Till the last word on the page. Tana Rabbanan, Tana V'Eliyahu. In the school of Eliyahu Hanavi, it was taught. Who's the school of Eliyahu Hanavi? So throughout Shas, you have 12 times or 11 times we have what's called Tana V'Eliyahu. We were taught from the Beis Medrash of Eliyahu. Eliyahu Navi would come to the Beis Medrash of Rav Anan. Just looking it up on the screen. Yes. This says Rav Anan have a ragil Eliyahu Asi Gabe. Eliyahu Navi, Eliyahu the prophet, come from one who never passed away, and he comes from the higher worlds whenever he's needed for a mission, and he would teach Torah to Rav Anan. Have a massively Seder Eliyahu, and he taught him all the statements which would be recorded in the volume of Seder Eliyahu. And there's 2 Sfarim of Tana V'Eliyahu, which we taught from Eliyahu. One is called Eliyahu Rabbah and Eliyahu Zuta. And have a Kivin the Avid Hachi. One time, there's a story of Rav Anan previously in the Gemara, that Rav Anan, one time, he, not intentionally, but he, during a halacha, during a din Torah, he said he paskined in the incorrect way. Right, because a person came and the person was very nervous in front of Rav Anan, and so it caused that person to lose a din Torah. And after that miscarriage of justice, Istalik, Eliyahu Navi stopped coming to Rav Anan. So Rav Anan felt so terrible. Why did Eliyahu Navi stop coming? And he started fasting, and he begged Hashem for mercy that Eliyahu Navi should come back once again. Asa. And Eliyahu Navi then came back, started teaching Rav Anan again. When he would come, however, whenever Eliyahu Hanavi came after that, Reb Anan wouldn't be able to handle the great revelation of Eliyahu Hanavi, and he became frightened every time. So he made a box where he would close himself in the box, and Eliyahu Hanavi would stand and teach him outside. Ad apikle sidre, and he taught him all of the seder, all the what's written in the Svarim of Tanat ve'Eliyahu. And these are the order of Eliyahu Rabbah, Eliyahu Zutta. Eliyahu Rabbah, the great, meaning the larger one, is before the incident. Everything everything in there is from what Eliyahu Navi taught Rav Anan before the story, this incident, and Eliyahu Zutta is everything that Rav Anan would teach him after that. All the statements that are in Gemara of Tanat ve'Eliyahu, we learned from the Beis Medrash ve'Eliyahu. These are all also printed in. These are all also in the Sefer of Tanat ve'Eliyahu, besides for one statement. There's altogether about 12 statements in the Gemara of Tanat ve'Eliyahu. The first time Tanat ve'Eliyahu was printed was in the 1500s. There was another Tana named Eliyahu, but generally it's accepted that it was talking about Eliyahu Hanavi, not this Tana Eliyahu. And this is something we say every single day in davening. Whoever learns Torah every single day, he is guaranteed that he will receive a portion of the world to come. Shneimar, as it states, Habakkuk says, the ways of the world belong to him. Halachas, one who learns halachas, then the ways of the world belong to him. He will receive olam haba, the world to come. If you learn halacha every single day, you're guaranteed to receive the world to come. That's part of what we learned before davening. Every single day, we say in Parak Rabbanis, we say certain halachas in order to fulfill what it says. One should learn halachas every day. Of course, you shouldn't be satisfied and learn more halacha every single day. The Rebbe pushed very strongly. Everyone should get smicha, should learn halacha. He introduced in all Chabad yeshivas, you learn halacha every single day. Whether Shulchan Aruch, Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch. So why is this right next to the story of Reish Lakish? Reish Lakish would not want to make service of a Torah scholar. He taught him halacha. And then we say, whoever learns halacha every day will receive the portion of the world to come. And why did Reish Lakish decide to choose this halacha of Reb Zera? That if a woman sees one drop of blood, they sit Shiva Nakim, they sit 7 clean days. So who does one have to honor more, their teacher or their father? What's halacha? Teacher, because your father brought you into this world, and your teacher brings you into the world to come. Reish Lakish is telling this person, I taught you halacha. So now I brought you into Olam Haba, into the world to come. And if your own father you have to serve in such a way, then to me also you're permissible to serve me in such a way as well. And therefore you have to honor me for this. Every single Jew, of course, has a portion in the world to come. It doesn't matter who or what they are. Some people have a greater portion in the world to come. Some have a shorter portion in the world to come. And someone who learns halacha every single day, halacha is the final psak, not the Gemara, which is back and forth, but the final halacha. That's the conclusion after you already came to the conclusion, after you came to the truth. And once you came to the truth, to the ultimate, after you figured out and clarified everything, then therefore, you're able to come into Olam Haba, in the world to come, which is also a purification, a cleansing process for the neshama. Which, in turn, is this halacha of Reb Zera. It says that the Jewish women were stringent on themselves. Even if they saw only one drop of blood, they would wait for 7 days to purify themselves. Rish Lakish wanted to tell him a lesson. Some Sefer explains. We know that Ein Shechina Shira El Mitech Simcha. Shechina could only rest on someone who is always happy, besimcha, joyful. So if someone is learning halachas every day, he must be besimcha, he must be happy. The Arizal says, and Rosh explains this, and there's several Amarim of the Rebbe explaining this as well. You go to Tehillim, chapter 100. Let's go to chapter 100, and we say this almost every day during davening. Mizmor l'soida. Praise Hashem. First pasuk, Hariyu Lashem Kol Haaretz. Hariyu Lashem Kol Haaretz. Let the entire earth shout out. Hariyu is like a turah, like a trumpet, announce to Hashem all of the earth. Ivdu Hashem b'simcha, serve Hashem with joy. Bayu l'fanav b'rinana. Come in front of Him with praise. This is when you bring a carbon toida to Hashem. They would sing this Mizmor l'soida. We don't say this on Pesach and on Yom Kippur because you can't bring a carbon toida on those days. The words Hariyu Lashem Kol Haaretz. Hariyu is the first letter, the Shteva's first letter of Hariyu is Hey. Hashem is a Lamed. Kol is Chaf. Haaretz is Hey. Makes up the word Halacha. The next thing it says after that is Ivdu as Hashem b'simcha. Serve Hashem with joy. So learning Halacha brings one to joy. So Rish Lakish is telling this Talmid Chacham, this Torah scholar, who was a very humble person. He, from his outside appearance, he couldn't tell he's a Talmid Chacham, couldn't tell he's a Torah scholar. And he ended up that he knows 4 starim of Mishnayos very well. Now, a tzaddik always feels humble. They don't want to feel that they are someone great. They feel that I one time did an Avera when I was young, and they're always doing tshuva for something they might have done a very long time ago. So if they're always constantly second guessing and doing teshuva, they might be losing their simcha, not have simcha shel mitzvah. So this is what Rish Lakish was telling the person who carried him through the puddle. He says, look at he taught him in a way of halacha, and he says, look at the Jewish woman who you might think they shouldn't be strict on themselves because it's just for themselves. They want to not to be tamei. They want to be tar, whether it's to eat kachim, bring karbanis in the Beis Hamikdash, or to be with their husbands. And still, even for a time, even for a possibility that they might have overlooked one day when they were bleeding and therefore there's Zav Gedolah, or for any other reasons, but even for one drop of blood, even a tiny drop, like the size of a mustard seed, they're going to wait 7 clean days. So just like the Jewish woman, for even the smallest thing, right? They're always looking out for it, just like a Talmid Chacham doing teshuvah for even the smallest transgression he might have done when he was younger, or for his young years wasn't a transgression, but now it is. Still, Tanan Velio teaches you that you have to always be the simcha, always have joy. That's why he says right afterwards, whoever learns halacha every day, always be simcha, then you're olam haba, because the way to the straight path to getting olam haba is besimcha. As we learned in other Gemaras, Rebbe said he wanted to know who's a ben olam haba. He asked Eliyahu Navi, and he pointed out 2 people in the market who will receive olam haba. Who are they? They were people who were badchi. They were comics, comedians. They were always making other people besimcha. Eliyahu Navi is teaching something else, because look in Pirkei Avos, the very, very end of, I think it's Perek Daled, last halacha. No, not Perek Daled, it must be Perek Gimel. It says, Kinenu Pischenida, Hein, and the Perek Gimel. Kufa halachas parparois gematrius lechach. Rabbi Lezer ben Chisma says, "Kinin upischei nida." The halachas, the laws of nida, of periods, menstrual periods, and kinin, the halachas of bird offerings when you do appears. These are gufa halachas. These are the meat, but these are the main halacha. Gufa is a gematrius parparois lechachma. Calculations of the sun and the moon and numerical calculations are condiments, but not the main wisdom. So pischei nida is the main halachas. Rish Lakish just taught this man who carried him across the river, across a puddle. He taught him one halacha about pischei nida. So this is the main halacha. So a person might think, in these secondary things, if I make a mistake in gematria or tkufas and seasons and calculations of the sun and the moon, it's not I'm not going against any prohibition of the Torah. By a nida, if you make a mistake in your calculation, it's a big prohibition. A prohibition of kares. And Reb Zera says that the woman took upon themselves a stringency to not have any doubt whatsoever. Even if they see one tiny drop of blood and they sit shivnekiyim, to get themselves out of any possibility of any doubt, because we're talking about a suffix deraisa, a suffix of kares from the Torah, a doubt, a possibility of kares. So a person might think to themselves that if I'm learning halachas about such important topics, about nida, kinin, which is also kachim, karbanas, if I learn halachas about that, then I'll get olam haba. How about if I learn halachas about kiddush levana, the new moon, the new sun? Well, I'm also being ben olam haba. So at the very end of Mesechta Nida, right? Go to the end. So Mesechta Nida is the last Gemara and Shas, last Mesechta and Shas, and the very end of Mesechta Nida, we have a copy exactly what it says over here. Tanuk v'Eliyahu, we learned from the Beis Medrash of Eliyahu. Whoever learns halachas every day will receive the olam haba, as it says, alichas olam lo ya'alkir alichas halachas. The halachas, the pathways. Learn halacha, you have a pathway into olam haba. That's the end of Mesechta Nida as well. Person shouldn't think that nowadays we have a chum of Reb Zera, I don't need to learn all the halachas of Nida. Why? Because a vast majority of hilchas Nida isn't really applicable nowadays. Because we already have the chumrah of Reb Zera. Right? So you may Nida, you may Ziva, which take up a tremendous amount of Mesechta Nida, is not applicable. Well, it's in Geyas, other things, Vestas and halachas of Tuma and Tara. But the actual body of is not so common. It's almost not important at all. Applicable maybe in extenuating circumstances. So a person shouldn't think to themselves, I don't have to learn the whole Mesechta Nida. I'm going to learn just what's important for today, once we have Rebbe Zera. So you have to know that to learn all the halachas, right? Not just halachas that are applying nowadays, but all the halachas a person has to learn. And this is from the Marsha. Okay, we'll pause over here for today.